Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Legislative Lens Spotlighting State Laws podcast. I'll be your host on this journey. My name is Tim Wilkins, and today we're going to be speaking about the most recent law that was passed here in the state of Texas. Was passed in the special session number 4 out of the 88th legislature by the state legislature. And they passed a law that they've been working on since probably the beginning of the special sessions have been called for by Governor Greg Abbott. So this for understanding and transparency purposes, understanding the laws in Texas, the governor of the state can call a special session anytime he or she feels fit to do so based on topics that need to be addressed by the legislative branch as a whole, and that address the needs of the citizens of the great state of Texas. And this being one of them. This most recent law that was signed into law on December 18th of 2023 is the most comprehensive and transformative package and border security legislation that's ever passed in this state. Now, this podcast is not going to be partisan by any means whatsoever, so we're going to talk about it in a very broad scope. And I think it's important to do so because it needs to make sure everyone understands the reason and the causation for a lot of the laws that get passed. Okay. Just for everyone's intensive purposes at home, the state legislative branch is actually Republican ran and has been Republican ran for a pretty long time. But also this topic, in the inclusion of this topic on state laws, has come up because of the inactivity or inept activity of the federal side of the government. So the governor and the lieutenant governor, Lieutenant Dan Patrick, worked diligently to try to find funding to not just shore up the border crisis and the border security, but as well as try to find deterrence, because the lack of action by the federal government here has caused this scenario to concur here in the state of Texas. Okay, so we're going to go into this law a little bit. There's actually 3 laws here. I know the topic of the title is Senate Bill 3 and Senate Bill 4. There was actually 2 Senate Bill 3s and 1 Senate Bill 4. So this so you understand, that's the reason why the topic and the title of the episode is what it is. Okay. 4 years ago, this is what Greg Abbott said. 4 years ago, the United States had the fewest illegal border crossings in decades. It was because of 4 policies put in place by the Trump administration that led to a single low number of illegal crossings. President Joe Biden has eliminated all those policies and has done nothing to halt illegal immigration. That is what he's saying the reason for this law and why he called a special session. Okay, so make sure we understand the laws and it's a totality of understanding of what the law does. Okay. The Texas National Guard remains decisively engaged with thousands of troops from El Paso down to Brownsville, which is the main portion of the border that is under siege basically by illegal immigration. Operation Lone Star was a key tactical infrastructure plan and decisive manner that has allowed us, the state of Texas, to really cause a huge deterrence for illegal immigration, but they needed funding, and they also needed to increase maybe some security measures in the communities that are affected the most. So let's go into this, shall we? Senate Bill 3 from the special session number 3 that started this. Okay, this is where it kind of started this, and that's the reason why special session was called, was because this issue was not solved. So he said, you know what, you guys didn't finish it. We're going to finish it now. So special session, special Senate Bill number 3, from the special session number 3 was Flores. It was the co-sponsors were Flores and Gulen. Creates a mandatory 10-year minimum prison sentence for smuggling of persons and continuing smuggling of persons, passed with bipartisan support. The law enhances the criminal penalties for the operation of stash houses when it comes to human trafficking and creates a mandatory 5-year minimum prison sentence. It also further enhances criminal penalties for victim-related offenses that occur during the commission of smuggling, such as assault and burglary. Okay. So let's get down to that sounds like a mouthful of words. So let's get down to it. What they're trying to do at the essence of this law is to create a deterrence for people to come across the border illegally. That is the main thing here. But what they're trying to also see that people that are using the human trafficking side are also tried harshly as well. So that's Senate Bill number 3, okay, from special session number 3. But this one as well, Senate Bill number 3 from this session alone was co-sponsored by Huffman and Jensen, is the main crux of the appropriation side of this entire thing. Okay, it appropriates $1.54 billion in from the General Revenue Fund to fulfill border security operations in construction, operation, and maintenance of border barrier infrastructure. So going back and studying this a little bit more, because you have to a little bit when it comes to some of these things, the funding really includes about 69 miles of said border wall and border barrier, as they say. And it also has to do with some of the funding of said overtime that has really, really, really hit the DPS budget here in the state of Texas, as well as allotted overtime for more special projects in communities that are hit the hardest with illegal immigration, and how that law, some of this illegal immigration that has occurred has seen huge increases in crime in neighborhoods that are pretty heavily affected by it. So you're seeing mainly this goes towards the DPS budget, but at its core here, before we go into the root of the Senate Bill number 4, what this all stems down to, this will be a huge fight between the federal government and the state government of Texas. And Ken Paxton already said, bring it on. He does not care. He has already said to the Biden administration, you guys have lacked effort and lacked action. We have to make something happen in order to solve this problem, because we are getting just bamboozled here. So the reason why the state of Texas is doing this is really they're seeing a huge increase in illegal immigration coming across the border. And that's where you see Governor Greg Abbott basically flying these illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities, because he's like, you know what, if the liberal side, the Democratic side of the ticket doesn't want to act, well, they're going to act now when they're on their doorstep. That's his philosophy on it. Do I agree with it or disagree with it? That's not the issue here. The issue is, at some point, the immigration issue has to be taken up by the federal government. And until it does, the state of Texas has become a victim of inactivity, and we have to act upon ourselves to handle it accordingly. Now, the Senate Bill number 4 is also going to create a huge deterrence and also a large increase in people inside of the Department of Corrections and things like that. So, in the Senate Bill 4 from the special session, co-sponsor was Perry and Spiller, creates a criminal offense for illegal entry into the state of Texas from a foreign national illegally. The law cracks down on repeated attempts to enter Texas by creating the offense of illegal reentry and penalizes offenders for up to 20 years in prison. So now this makes illegal immigration, if you come across the border illegal, it makes it a state of Texas offense. So the state of Texas can charge you as well as the federal government. Okay. It also it provides the mechanism to order an offender to return to the foreign nation it came from before the federal government can do so. The law provides civil immunity for local and state government officials, employees, and contractors from lawsuits resulting from the enforcement of these said provisions. So really, at the essence here, it's state of Texas taking upon itself to protect itself. And it really is, at some point, it's empowering the law enforcement officers to arrest those who come into the state illegally and to act because of the inactivity and the inability to act by the federal government, because their hands are tied. I'm not saying that the Border Patrol doesn't do anything here. It's that there needs to be more Border Patrol agents, and needs to be more infrastructure and more wall. And there needs to be also, and this person, the host myself, can say openly and candidly that the border insecurity and immigration issue is one of the key issues of this generation. I think it goes without saying that Republicans and conservatives on the right do want to have immigration in this country. They just want it done in the legal ways. I think people across both parties agree with that statement. The left, unfortunately, has, and this is not a political statement, this is not me fanting of my opinion, they have done everything they can to circumvent that and not let that happen. And they put roadblocks along the way. At the same point, there's a humanitarian crisis going on across the world. People love coming to the United States because the opportunity of coming to the United States. And unfortunately, they're being ill-advised or maybe incentivized to come here by certain activities. And at some point, things need to be taken, matter into their own hands here. The state of Texas is doing whatever it can to protect itself because we're seeing large amounts of increases in crime. Smuggling, from stash house operations, and heck, even some of this budget for the $1.54 billion is actually going into it. Literally, the Department of Public Safety is having increase in overtime spending so they can patrol a certain part of the state. That tells you everything you need to know, and I think that's going to be a key issue going into the 2024 election. But I appreciate everyone having an opportunity to listen to me talk about this law, and hopefully everyone sees the impact of this law affecting it. It is going to be litigated. There's no question about that. It's going to be litigated. A federalism versus state rights issue is going to probably come up on the ticket for the Supreme Court of the United States. But until it does, Texas is going to do what it needs to do. So that being said, feel free to like and subscribe and download the podcast on all your podcast platforms, as well as feel free to continue the conversation on Twitter. We're at Legislative Lens on Twitter, or X, excuse me, as well as Legislative Lens on YouTube. And I hope everyone joins me again as well, because we're going to go into some more laws here. There's about a total of 35 laws that were passed that I'm going to go over here in this season 1. And I hope everyone joins me. My name is Tim Wilkins. I'm signing out. Have a great day. Happy New Year, everybody.